The word misogyny is one of the most overused and abused words. The fact is, genuine women haters are extremely rare. Hatred of women doesn't come naturally to men. The vast majority of men feel deeply protective of women, and most men love their mothers. As long as a male child is not severely abused by their mother, most male children will have a close bond with their mother. Many men seem to project the feelings they have towards their mothers onto all women. It genuinely takes a lot of mistreatment by women to condition men out of their default women-worshipping state. In fact, many men get abused and used by women repeatedly and still carry on worshipping women. Men do seem to have a deep-seated male mother need. Batshit insane feminists use the word misogynist all the time. They often claim that society is misogynistic. This is of course pure nonsense, as the USA and UK are both societies of constant women worship, where women are considered extra-human, have more rights than men and thus are privileged over the entire male sex. Feminists claim that men make women wear high heels and that is misogyny. Even women's own willing choices, and indulgent luxury spending is blamed on men as misogyny. Even though women are clearly socially dominant over men, somehow men are able to maliciously control women against their will. It seems society does not apply agency onto women in general. Even the men who complain about women all the time, to obsess over them, do not really hate women. They really can't be called misogynists for the most part. These men have either been burned in relationships with women, or are bitter that women have deselected them, due to the fact women deselect lower status men. These men feel they need to be with women, and being with one would complete them as a human being. Women clearly do not feel the same about men. Men love women, and want to be close to them. They want to have women around so they can be intimate with them. But the problem is, even for men who can gain some access to female intimacy, is the fact dating dynamics suck for men. Men are getting intimacy with women on really shitty terms. Lots of women seem to be narcissistic and entitled, and love to waste the time of men. Lots of women flake and do not turn up for the dates they arrange. Women have a strange habit of engaging in conversations with men online and then just dropping them out. Almost like they have zero concern for the people they are interacting with as human beings. Many women see dating as a practice to rinse stuff out of men, getting free dinners, free entertainment. It is clear that many women do not respect men, and often love to push past their boundaries, disrespecting them. Many women treat dating like a job interview, where she is the employer looking for an employee who is willing to be treated disrespectfully and taken advantage of in a codependent relationship. Men are aware of this disrespect, and sadly most men who date put up with it. They see it as the price you have to pay for engaging in the dating market. That is just how the dynamics works as far as these men are concerned. Men want women more than women want men, so women set the terms in male-female romantic relationships. I never personally engaged in dating for long, as I was aware of the disrespect coming from many of the women I was interacting with. When I complained about it to other men, they basically told me to put up with it. They acted like I was the one with the problem, not the women. I did not enjoy interacting with women trying to sniff out my status if they met me. I did not enjoy having my time wasted by flaky women. So I moved on from dating. Instead of obsessing about how shitty dating is, I just let it go. Lots of men in the MGTOW, PUA and incel communities spend a lot of their time complaining about women, and how much dating sucks. I have even seen men in the fathers' rights movement complaining about the same thing. This shows you have toxic and harmful obsession with women and relationships is to the men's rights movement is. Fathers' rights should be the last place men whine about dating women. I do think complaining about women is an important step in a man's personal development, as it is a taboo in this society to criticize entitled female behavior. Calling women out for how they behave is in fact transgressive in Western societies, and can get you labeled a misogynist. The problem is men tend to complain about female behavior from a very narrow focus. There is too much focus on romantic relationships, for example. Criticizing typical female behavior is a transgressive step all men need to take, as women want men to shut up and not communicate about their problems, as men communicating about women is seen as a threat to female social dominance. Women complain and bitch about men all the time, so turnabout is fair play. Also, the complaints men have about women have far more merit to them than the complaints women have about men, as far as I am concerned. Women want to maintain their social dominance over men, so of course they are going to dismiss any complaints men have of female behavior as misogynistic, even if those complaints are valid. The term misogynist is often used as a dismissive pejorative to invalidate men, and used as an excuse not to engage with them, to dehumanize them. The term is used quite often as a complete non sequitur to try and shut any pro-male conversation down. The term misogynist no longer means a man who hates women. It seems to me the term has evolved to mean creepy low-status male. Women often call men they find unattractive misogynist. They assume men who are not attractive must hate women. The women are simultaneously projecting their own feelings of contempt onto men, and rationalizing those feelings. These women feel entitled to hate on low-status men, because the women like to assume that these low-status men hate them. These women can't admit that they hate these men for no good reason. Some socially awkward men do interact with women in a so-called creepy manner. This is not normally due to hatred, but desperation. These men do not have any hateful feelings towards the women they are interacting with. Most of these men desperately want to be with a woman, and be accepted by them. Women for the most part do not want to deal with low-status men, as they make them feel uncomfortable and would rather these men not exist. A lot of the time women rejecting these men do so in the most humiliating manner possible, instead of simply telling them politely, they are not their type and do not find them attractive. If the men getting rejected lashes out by calling these women names, society gets outraged and sees that as misogyny beyond the pale. Often totally blind to the disrespectful treatment the men lashing out has received. While saying mean things to women is transgressive, and ranting on about women can be cathartic to men, many men get stuck in this rebellious phase, like a teenager who never grows up. These men get stuck in their obsessions, and never grow out of them, endlessly stewing and complaining about the unfair terms women set in romantic relationship. Men need to be detached and analytical about women and female nature. They also need to have insight into their own natures as men as well. Men need to be honest about themselves and their place in the world. Ranting on about women being evil, and being bitches is not healthy for men. Fixating on resentment and things beyond a person's control will make men feel powerless, and these men can even develop mental health problems from doing so. These men are ranting out of sexual and emotional frustration. Even these men do not hate women though. You see, what the vast majority of men labeled as misogynist feel about women is ambivalence. It goes against the instincts of men to truly hate women, so even when women make it clear they do not want men, or have no respect for them, men still want these women deep down, no matter how many times these men declare they do not want women. It is all just empty strongman posturing at the end of the day. These men know women do not want relationships on decent terms. Men know that women do not value men innately for who they are, but these angry men can't let go of their obsessions. Many men are still stuck in the bargaining stage. Human beings can have conflicting emotions about a person or a group of people. For example, a sugar daddy pandering to his girlfriend may love the attention he is getting from her. He may love her smooth skin, big brown eyes, big boobs, and cute voice, but simultaneously he may have suppressed feelings of resentment. Deep down the sugar daddy knows that soon as his cash runs out, that his girl is going to bail on him. The sugar daddy may try and rationalize away his pandering, his servile behavior, by telling himself it is natural, that it is natural for men to be providers and for women to be provided for. Yet for all his rationalizations, he still can't get rid of his feelings of deep-seated resentment. He doesn't want to have to bribe women to be with him. He wants to be accepted for who he is unconditionally. When the sugar daddy gets dumped by his girl, he may then go online somewhere and rant and rave about what whores women are, about how it is unfair how women use men. He will let all his earlier suppressed feelings out, and use online male spaces as his own personal therapy session. Most of the time, these men will leave after ranting for a few months and then move on. A good example of ambivalent men are the so-called MGTOW monks. Sexually frustrated low-status men, who have either never been in a relationship or have been divorced and been through the ringer. These monks posture about being strong stoic guys, who have their desires under control and do not need women. Yet these so-called MGTOW monks make video after video talking about women. Often talking about women being sluts, on women no longer sticking to their traditional gender roles as submissive housewives. A man who no longer cares about women, wouldn't care about women not conforming to so-called traditional roles. The MGTOW monks who have been in relationships look down on the monks who have never been in a relationship. They mock them for being incels, and not true monks. Apparently, according to divorced MGTOW monks, you can only be a monk if you are choosing it willingly, not having it forced upon you by female rejection. Of course, divorce is female rejecting, but these monks like to think themselves better than other men, because a woman willingly used them in the past. It is strange that men who claim to abstain from women on their own terms, still consider it a mark against someone, if they are unable to attract women. I think MGTOW monks are just role-playing online, and are in the same boat as other low-status men who are desperate for female validation. These monks want to look down on other men, to boost their own egos and make themselves feel better. These sort of grandiose egoistical traits are not very monk-like. Also, many monks are obsessed with hoarding wealth to acquire status, yet another trait that is not very monk-like. The MGTOW monks are very confused, they are not quite sure what they want themselves. They clearly still want women badly, but they also know on some level that the deal women offer them is shit, and the risks involved are too high for their tastes. Sooner or later most monks who are able to, will play the dating game again. It is clear that the average MGTOW monk is obsessed with women, that his posturing about being beyond the need for female validation is a dishonest sham. The entire MGTOW community shares many traits in common with the MGTOW monk faction. They seem to have the same ambivalent feelings towards women. They also seem to share the same obsession, talking about female nature ad nauseum. MGTOWs will warn of the dangers of having relationships with women. Many will talk about how they do not want women anymore, but then they will make countless videos about women. Videos full of resentment, revenge fantasies about women hitting the wall, women suffering without men, women needing men to provide for them and not being able to find a good man, women being stuck with university debt after doing higher education, and there being no good provider men to bail them out. It is almost like these MGTOWs are trying to convince themselves women still need them. These MGTOWs clearly have resentment against women, but they clearly want these women very badly as well. Men who have from ambivalent feelings towards women often act in strange and bizarre ways. I remember one nutty tradcon MGTOW. Then he would make videos ranting about women being angels who need to be protected from dangerous Muslim men. Men who are not honest about their own feelings, who lack insight into their own motivations, who put up false strongman fronts, and posture to the world, are not going to be men worth working with. These men who are low status, rejected by women, and acting purely on their emotions, will just end up lashing out at other men. These men do have repressed feelings of resentment towards women, but they also love women very deeply, and are obsessed about them. Also, it is not socially acceptable to lash out at women, so these men will instead take their feelings of resentment out on other men. Look at all the right-wing men who waffle on about weak beta cuck boys. Many of these men are in communities that have been invaded by feminist women and can do nothing to push back against them. These men try and compensate by taking it out on men they deem as weak. That is par for the course for many men: get trampled over and socially dominated by women, and then practice misplaced aggression and lash out at other low-status men instead of the women they feel resentment against. Pro-male men must understand male nature so they can be honest about it. We have to know what we are dealing with. We must look for the few men who do have insight, who do care about the plight of men, and who are not obsessed with women. We need to find men who can compartmentalize their sexual attraction to women, and not let it cloud their judgment on male issues. Male obsession over women can be dangerous and disruptive to healthy group dynamics. Male spaces that obsess over women always tend to be toxic, and reinforce negative behaviors of the men in the group. A low-status man, who wants society to collapse, and believes the collapse is coming, and natural gender relations between men and women will therefore be restored, is clearly letting his mate-guarding housewife fetish cloud his judgment and understanding of the world. He wants his sexual fantasies to come true, so therefore as far as he is concerned his belief system must be true, only because he wants it to be so. This low-status man can be a tradcon, a MGTOW, an incel, or a typical alternative writer. These men never seem to learn, and will carry on doubling down on their obsessions with women. I only care about men's rights. I want male babies to have protection from genital mutilation. I want male homelessness to be tackled. I want fathers to have rights in regards to their children. I want men to get the same level of healthcare funding as women. I want discrimination against boys in education to end. I want the Me Too #hysterics to end, and the women who practice it to be prosecuted for defamation against men. I want men to have full due process when accused of sexual crimes against women. I want the gender sentencing gap to end. I want feminism to be classed as a hate movement, and feminists banned from working in the public sector. I do not give a damn about relationships with women. The far more important issues at hand for men. Men and women are drifting apart, and it is not a men's rights issue. Men not being in relationships with women is not a human rights issue. The MGTOW, alternative right, incel and tradcon communities are self-marginalizing ghettos full of neurotic men. Society deems them as misogynistic, but they are just a bunch of conflicted women worshipping men, simultaneously hating on women and worshipping them. Most of these men will worship women soon as they have a woman in their lives. So to sum it up, men who are labeled misogynist are just men obsessed with women, men who still put women at the center of their identity, men angry that women reject them, angry that they have to pander to women to earn them. Torn between a desire to be with a woman, and a desire not to be disrespected by them and not be used, these men are deeply confused and act in strange ways. Most of these men will never care about other men, and a lot of the time they will never even develop a sense of self-regard for themselves. These men may be tradcons who want to marry a white woman and have babies to save the white race, or men who posture as MGTOW strong men, who will put women in their place withdrawing their resources from them. All these men are or more or less the same, and they are boring and a complete waste of time. We need to bypass these men and their obsessions. I have talked enough about the right, MGTOW, tradcons, and the like. My next video is going to be a long one about left-wing politics. It might be the longest video I have ever done. It may take me a month to do it, but I do plan to get it done. This video is vitally important, as it points out the core problem with left-wing politics, and why it will be forever flawed from a men's rights perspective.